Today, let's teach you how to break through score plateaus. Score plateaus feel really bad on multiple fronts. There's the confidence hit, there's the sense of having wasted time, and then there's the doubt about your future and whether your goal score is unrealistic on your desired timeline. Having said that, score plateaus can happen to even the most capable students. I wouldn't call myself the most capable student, but I was solid. And I had to break through several score plateaus back when I was in your shoes. And because they're so common, we deal with them a ton in our work with folks. And so we've been able to create a systematic way to break through score plateaus. It's not super complicated. There are three main tips to making it happen, and we'll go a little bit more in depth momentarily, but I'm just going to give you the high level overview first. The first step is improving your pacing strategy. I don't necessarily mean clock management, and there's a lot of confusion about this. A lot of people confuse pacing strategy with just time management, and they're not exactly the same thing. Even though time management and clock management is very important, that is very important, and we've discussed it quite a bit in some of our other episodes, which are linked below. But pacing strategy is more about how you're investing your time during the section, what questions you choose to put a lot of time into versus the questions you might choose to move through quickly. Again, there's a systematic way to do this well, but I've found that a lot of folks use a kind of like a random approach to time management, such as like 2 minutes on every single question, which if you think about it it doesn't sound random on the surface, but it is actually totally random because you're not considering the content of each question or your ability to get each question right. You're just randomly spending 2 minutes on everything. And you can imagine how that would go in your investment portfolio. And so we want to change that because unfortunately a random process leads to random results. So we'll hopefully stop you from getting random results today if that's what's been happening for you, because that happened to me. It was super painful. And I hope that's not the situation you're in. But if you're watching this, then you may have felt at least some of that, hopefully not too much. The second step to breaking through score plateaus is improving how you invest your study time. This is quite obvious that how you improve how you invest your study time is going to make a significant difference in your prep. And the key there is nobody out there is like, oh, let me use my study time poorly. Like that's never a thought anyone's having. And so it's not necessarily an effort problem. It's a knowledge problem. You may just not have a system for investing your study time well. And if you did, you probably wouldn't be having score plateaus in the first place. So if you're using your study time well, you should get more questions right, you should get them right faster, and you should make fewer mistakes over time. And this, again, might sound just like comically simple, but in reality, the brute force approach tends to be overused. So again, we'll give you a system for managing this well in a moment. The third step is improving your individual question type strategy. That means improving your approach to data sufficiency questions, which is totally different than improving your approach to reading comprehension questions. Perhaps it goes without saying, you should have the best strategy you possibly can for each question type that you're going to see on the exam. And if you do, things are going to go well. And if you don't, things are going to be tough. When you have a structured process for tackling every single question, it's a lot easier to make good decisions. It's a lot easier to get questions right. And it's a lot easier to make better investments. And so there's a positive compounding effect here when you're doing all these three things well that I just talked about. So let's go ahead and dive in. Again, number one factor for sure, I see it just thousands of times a year, that causes people's scores to plateau is the section pacing thing. So let's lead with that. A lot of people think that section pacing is how they feel about the clock during the section. But it's important to realize that that's not really what good pacing is. When you have good section pacing, you'll probably feel better about the clock. And I'll talk more specifically about that after a little bit of background to make that make more sense. But you may not always feel great about it, and that's okay. And let's talk about why that is, because if having good section pacing strategy was intuitive, if it felt right, if it just made logical sense the first time you thought about it, you wouldn't have any section pacing problems. All of you are extremely intelligent, extremely reasonable, extremely hardworking people. Like as a group, you're really good humans, like very, very capable. And so if this stuff was obvious, then no one ever would have a score plateau. It's the fact that it is counterintuitive and unobvious that makes it important for us to spend time talking about it right now. So most of us are used to taking tests that are based only on accuracy. Meaning if you get 90% right and 10% wrong, you did a good job. And if you get 10% right and 90% wrong, you did a bad job. The GMAT is different though, and it might not even make sense to think about a test that is not based on accuracy because every test you've ever taken up until this point in your life has probably been based on accuracy. So again, this is counterintuitive. It's unobvious. Your score on the GMAT is not based only on accuracy. Yes, you do need to get questions right, but your score is also based on the difficulty levels of the questions that you see. Now, this is a big transition for most people because it's also, in my opinion, poorly explained online. You might have heard people talk about this, but if they talked about it well enough, you would not have any pacing strategy problems. Okay. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here. I just want to tell you the truth because that's really what's important here. What's important here is your success. If the people you had learned from in the past were teaching you about this well enough, you wouldn't have any section pacing problems. Okay. So let's try to fill in the gaps that may be there. It's hard to let go of assessing our performance based purely on accuracy. If you don't make that realization, though, a lot of bad things can happen. For example, let's consider the optimal strategy for an accuracy-based test, so not the GMAT. On a test based only on accuracy, it makes sense to move quickly through the easy questions that I know how to do so I can invest more time in the questions that are harder for me to get right. In fact, on an accuracy-based exam, that might be the only way I can get 90% of questions right. So most of us have internalized this belief system so thoroughly and so thoughtlessly, it doesn't even make sense to question it. I was talking about that before. Like it's not even in the realm of questioning it because it's such a fundamental assumption that it's even hard to think about like how could there be a test that's not based on accuracy? So let's talk about how that belief system could hurt your performance on the GMAT. Like I said, the GMAT is not based only on accuracy. It's also based on the difficulty level of questions that I see. As an extreme example, if I got only 50% of questions right in a GMAT section, but all of those questions that I got wrong were super hard, aka a high difficulty level, I would get a better score than if I got 90% of questions right that were all easy, aka a low difficulty level. So if I get lots of easy questions right, like my whole section is easy questions and I'm getting most of them, then I'm going to get a worse result than if all the questions I see in the section are hard, but I am missing a great deal of them. That fact really messes with people. It can take a while to really get that to like, I don't even want to say feel right, because for a lot of us, it never feels right. We just like learn how to deal with it. But what I want to say is like, it's okay if it takes a little bit of while to a little bit of while. It's messing with me right now. It's okay if it takes a while to internalize that on a level where you can capitalize on it. Now we're going to make some big strides toward that today, but this is a kind of thing that like it may not fully click in an hour. It might take a couple weeks of really sitting with it and grappling with it and looking through your past exam data if you have that, or taking some practice tests and really pressure testing it. Okay. I really want everything that we tell you to be very fact checkable, pressure testable. And I don't mean like you searched it once on the internet and some AI disagreed with me. That's not we talked about that in the how to use AI well in your GMAT prep program. I'm not saying that AI is always going to be right or always going to be wrong. You just want to understand the way that AI works on like a loosely technical level so you can understand why sometimes you have to be skeptical of AI answers. Okay, we're kind of getting off track here, so let me refocus us. Right now, you could do a web search and you could find probably 100 examples of people sharing their official score reports and asking, I got so many more questions right on this test versus my last test. Why was my score lower? Like just use that Just use that. Quick old school web search. See if you can find some examples of this, like forum posts, blog posts. There's a lot of them out there. If you really combed through the forums for a week, you'd probably see like 3 to 10 of them on any given forum. Like it's a very, very, very common thing. But it's a little scary. So be advised, you might start to realize how misaligned the incentives of the industry are and the chaos that that creates for a lot of well-meaning students. And it's not a good situation. And it's not the way that things should be. Right now, that situation is bottlenecking really capable candidates from going to great business schools, becoming great leaders, and like having a lot of positive change and influence in the world. So let's fix that. Good section pacing on the GMAT is actually the opposite of how you would think about good section pacing on an accuracy-based exam. On a test where my score is based on the difficulty level of questions I see, missing an easy question actually hurts my score more than missing a hard question. And that's because the GMAT adapts to my performance every single question of the exam. If I get the current question I'm looking at right, then the next question I see is going to be harder. That's like my reward for getting questions right, is more difficult questions. If you get the question you're looking at wrong, the next question will likely be easier. Again, it's very, very, very different, like absurdly different to what you're probably used to with every test you've ever taken in your life. So again, it might take a little bit of time to make the transition. We just need to point you in the right direction, and then we'll allow your positive instincts and, like I said, capability and intelligence to take over from there. Maybe now you can start to see why it's so hard for people to improve their scores. They don't even understand the rules of the game that they're playing. So let's step back from that for a moment and think about this. If missing easy question hurts my score more than missing hard questions, how should I allocate my time? I should probably spend more time on the quote unquote easy questions, double checking everything as I go, making sure I never miss questions that I actually know how to do. And then borrow time from harder questions that I'm less likely to get right in order to invest that extra time into questions that I am highly likely to get right. So it's less about easy and hard on an absolute scale, and it's more about doable or not doable for you personally. And there's a gradient there. So like some questions are going to be more doable, some questions are going to be less doable. And the process we're going to go through is getting good at investing more time and energy, making sure you don't miss the gettable questions, and then letting go of questions that are less gettable over time. And if you'll hear a lot of people tell you to do that, but again, if they had explained that well enough, if they had explained it in a way that you could internalize it and build on it with your own strategy, then you'd already have the score. Like I know you're working hard. Yes, there's a small percentage of you who are listeners of this, who I talk to every year, who are not working hard enough. Like there's a small percentage of you out there, and you know you're not working hard enough. And we've made a ton of content for you. Some of it will be linked below. We've got our discipline episode, we've got our consistency episode. Like that stuff, if you put it into practice, will all work. But most of you are working extremely hard, way harder than you thought you were going to work on this. You're excited about the process. You're hungry for the gains. You don't fear the work, but you have the wrong map of the wrong territory. Again, you're playing a game where you don't really know the rules, and we can fix that. That's very, very fixable. So let's go back to this point. I'm going to repeat this just in case it's helpful. I personally, when I was in your shoes, would have benefited from someone repeating it to me. So just take that for what it is. Again, if missing easy questions hurts my score more than missing hard questions, I should probably spend more time on the easy questions, double checking everything, making sure I never get them wrong, and then borrow time from harder questions that I'm less likely to get right in order to invest that extra time into the questions that I'm highly likely to get right. Again, I want to put more energy into the bets that are probably going to pay off, recognize the bets that are not going to pay off, and invest less in those. Building on that, missing hard questions doesn't hurt my score as much. So I should be even more willing to let these go when they're not going well. So I have time to make sure that I don't miss easy questions. Now, if I'm on a hard question and it's it's very challenging, but I'm clearly making excellent progress on it, then that's gettable. So it might even be helpful to make the transition away from thinking about easy, medium, hard, and instead just thinking about gettable versus not gettable. For me personally, not even in an absolute sense. Okay, now I know the competition is in an absolute sense, and that's really important to think about, but it's probably not going to help you strategize during the exam. That's why I'm saying, like, think about it only from your perspective. That'll help you make the best decisions that you can. And when you make the best decisions that you can, that maximizes your performance in the absolute sense. Okay, so if you do good inputs, the score is going to take care of itself. Again, normally on an accuracy based test, I would think I should go faster through the easy questions to make time for the harder questions. That is a very sensible strategy on an accuracy based test. But this exam is not based on accuracy. And so that is actually the opposite strategy that I should have. Instead, on an exam that's not based on accuracy, but primarily based on the difficulty level of questions that I'm getting right and wrong, I should invest more time on easy questions to make sure I don't get them wrong. Missing easy questions hurts my score more than missing hard questions. And I should invest less time in questions that are hard for me because missing hard questions hurts my score less. The converse of this is that getting easy questions right helps my score more than getting hard questions right. And again, that's really, really tough to wrap our minds around sometimes. And again, it's totally okay if you need to come back to this episode a few times to get it to sink in. It's okay to run the experiment on your own practice exams if you want to demonstrate to yourself that this is accurate, because some of you won't believe it until you see it. And I totally respect that. You know how many people are on the internet telling you stuff, telling me stuff right now? Most of them are not believable at all. So I'm not even asking you to trust me. I'm just saying, like, if you think there's any merit, more than zero merit to what I'm saying right now, try it for yourself. Again, fact check it. I believe it'll stand up to scrutiny, and I'm committed to giving you the best truths that I can. I'm not perfect. You're never going to hear me claim to be perfect. I'm trying to be perfect. I'm trying extremely hard. But I'm not there yet. And I guess I should never say never. Maybe I'll get there, everybody. I should believe in myself. Let's put it that way. Maybe I'm going to get there. I hope I do. I may occasionally achieve perfection. But again, you're not going to know whether the advice I'm giving you is going to work for you until you test it out. So just put it to the test. That's what I'm saying. Let's assume, just for the moment, though, to make the rest of this episode constructive, that you can accept that what I'm saying is accurate. Let's ask some important questions. How easy do you think it's going to be to rewrite 20 years of conditioning from accuracy-based tests? Again, hopefully now you can see why it's difficult for a lot of people to improve on their GMAT scores. The concept is difficult to wrap your mind around. And even if you can accept that concept, the conditioning that we have from so many years of taking accuracy-based exams can take time to recondition. But it's totally doable. It's totally doable. I just want you to have good, proper expectations. Like, you might not be able to turn it around in an hour, but you might be able to turn it around in a few hours. So first, it's okay if it's tough. Second, you'll want to work on understanding it, pressure test it if you have to. And then you'll have to find a way to rewire the 20 years of habits. But I want to try to make that as easy as I can make it for you. I might not be able to make it easy, but I can make it easier. Here are a few catchphrases you can use. Train yourself to invest more time in questions you know, and train yourself to let go of questions you don't know. Just trying to distill that down for you. It's probably going to feel super weird. It felt super weird for me. It took me a lot longer than I wanted it to get it through my thick skull. I was definitely the kind of person who needed to see it to believe it. I was very, very skeptical because I've gotten a lot of bad advice in my life, and odds are you have as well. And unfortunately, I mean, you've hopefully gotten a lot of great advice too, but sometimes it's hard to tell what's what. Yeah. So again, might feel super weird. And that's why I said at the start of the segment that great section pacing may not always feel good. But that when you develop a good pacing strategy, you'll feel better about the clock. And the reason for that is eventually you'll realize that you don't need to get every question right to get a great score. And you will also realize that you'll always have enough time to get the questions that you do know how to do right, provided that you let go of the questions that you're unsure about. Again, on an adaptive exam, if I get enough questions right, eventually I'm going to see a question I don't know how to do. And so I just have to make a good decision there rather than what most of us are conditioned to do with accuracy-based tests, which is just dig in and spend 10 minutes on it. And then we've blown our whole budget for the whole section. Again, not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's the number one key to breaking through score plateaus and getting to the next level. So let me just reemphasize this one final time. And again, sorry if I'm being too repetitive. That's what I needed back in the day. So I'm just sharing this again in case any of you need to hear it more than once. If you train yourself to handle this well, your pacing problems are highly likely to just disappear. But the key is training yourself and accepting that there might be some resistance that comes to building new habits. You can do it. I sucked at it at first, and I watched my score go down on multiple tests despite super diligent study and only using the quote unquote best resources available at the time. And the good news is I ultimately realized that I was fighting a losing battle, and I gradually conditioned myself to have better habits under pressure. Obviously, things worked out well for me, and I believe they are going to work out extremely well for you also if you can bring yourself to change. If you want to see a visual of how all of this works, if that would be helpful for internalizing it, then we've got a free video on our website that demonstrates it visually. You don't need it, but it's there for you if you want. And we also have a written out blog post on the site that might be easier for you to digest if you like to have something to read and refer back to, like some written out notes. In fact, we just put our ebook up on the site as well. It's free also. And we'll link all those resources for you in the description. So if you check out the links section of actually just the footer of any of our blog posts, at the bottom of those pages, there'll be links to all that stuff. You can also reach us anytime if you have questions about this. We're at the GMAT strategy on current social channels, or you can always email us. Our public email address is contact, CONTACT, at thegmatstrategy.com. If you reach out to us, we're not going to try to sell you anything. We'll just help you. If you want to buy stuff from us, just ask us and we'll be happy to share if we have any availability at that time. But that's not required to get help, guys. The second key to breaking through score plateaus is making sure you invest your study time well. What most people do is just more new things. Like I said before, nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, I'm going to use my study time badly today. That's my intention for the day. Nobody's saying that. The problem, again, is a beliefs problem. We believe we're spending our time the right way. And that's why we make the post online. Everybody, please help me. What am I not seeing? I'm working as harder on this than I've ever worked on anything in any of my academic career, and my score's not moving. What is the deal with that, as my friend Jerry Seinfeld would say? So what most people do is just more new things, more new topics, more new practice problems, more new practice tests, new. Again, super understandable because you've probably seen that approach work on many exams in the past. It just makes a ton of logical sense. And the problem is just more new stuff rarely works with the GMAT. Now, if you're one of these like super smart genius level people whose cold baseline exam was a 98th percentile score, like you got a 695 on your cold baseline, and then you studied for 16 days and got an 805 perfect score, then more new things is probably totally fine for you because genetically you could have done literally anything and your score would have gone up. So look, nobody's I can't say nobody. The vast majority of people in the space, students, providers, etc., they're really good people. They're really good people. It's just it worked for me, so it should work for you. Logic does not apply in those situations. Someone whose cold baseline was already in the 90th percentile or above, and then they studied for a little while and got an even better score. Like they just won the genetic lottery, guys. Like that's probably not their strategy. Probably wasn't the key differentiator in moving their score. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. These people are clearly smarter than I am. So maybe they know something that I don't, but I've got a lot more data, guys. I mean, it is just a truly staggering amount of data at this point. 24 years in test prep and counting. So, yeah. Um, going back to the social media effect thing, though. So, let's say I'm this super smart person. I take my cold baseline. It's a 95th percentile score. I do some practice problems online. I take a class for a couple weeks or whatever. I do part of the class, and then I get an even better score. I'm highly incentivized to post that online. It feels great. Hey, look at me. I'm awesome. That feels good. That's why a lot of people post online, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's just step back and think about the situations that can create. Those posts get a ton of attention. They get a ton of attention because who would not want that? Who wants to invest months on months of time feeling like you're less than this person you work with, who you talk with every day, or one of your friends, only to see yourself get a worse result? Not an appealing pitch. I will pass on that deal, please. If I could, right? If we could pass on that deal, we would. So again, we get to this weird mix of incentives, social media effects, and people who may or may not have our best interests at heart. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't post on social if that's your thing and if you're into that. I'm saying if you are having a hard time and you're going to the forums or you're going to social media to get help, then certain posts are going to be helpful and certain posts could be unhelpful. And I just want to give you a little bit of a filter to help you make good judgments because we live in a world and a culture where seeing is believing. Everybody, it's been basically proven at this point. And if I mean, I don't want to sound too nerdy here, but like if you go back and read Foucault's The Clinic, you'll see what I'm talking about. Um, and it's neither good nor bad. Like a lot of good things have come from the seeing is believing philosophy. Like a lot of modern medicine, and a lot of modern science, which is like comically beneficial. Like, I mean, it's just insane to think about like what the cures for diseases were 100 years ago. It's absolutely outrageous to us now. Thank goodness. But when it comes to social media and we see these posts of like, oh man, this person studied for 2 weeks and got an 805, like I suck. I must just be a terribly useless human being. Like it's just weird how sometimes the mind can go there instead of being like, you know what? Good for them. That's really awesome that they're so talented. And you know what? Good for me. I'm going to grind it out here. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to build a bunch of great character traits from spending more time on this because hey, that's just the way I was wired and I didn't really have control of that. If I could go back in time and choose different, better genetics, I probably would, but that's not happening anytime soon. And so, let me just do the best I can. Like for some reason, that tends not to be the default belief system for a lot of us. And so I just want to arm you with a different story you can tell yourself there if you're getting a little discouraged, because discouragement doesn't really help our results. That's the problem with getting discouraged. I mean, it's part of the human experience. Dealing with it and transcending it is an important part of becoming a resilient, awesome person. But if we can avoid it, it's helpful. It's kind of dead weight at a certain point if you let it get to you. So usually doesn't make you more excited to sit down and study. So, like the time investment system I just gave you for each section and each question during the actual test while we're taking it, we want to build a data-backed, battle-tested system for investing your study time in a way that actually works, rather than the random, hey, let me click on the post that got the most upvotes here. Not that that's a bad thing inherently, but just be skeptical of the post with the most upvotes. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, hopefully I've explained that well enough. I'm not saying the post is wrong. I'm just saying like, take advice from the people who are most likely to be able to help you. If that's me, great. If it's somebody else, great. I want you to be successful. I'm not actually attached to whether you listen to me or not. If I'm a good fit for you and what I'm telling you is working, then I highly recommend listening to me. But if what I'm telling you is not working, or you don't like it, or there's someone else who's giving you better advice that's working better for you, then go listen to them. I'm here to help everybody improve. Everybody. If we're a fit, great. If we're not a fit, that's cool, man. Maybe we should just see other people. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing wrong with that. So, back to investing your study time well. Bad news here. What often feels right when we're studying is not usually the thing that works the best. That's the bad news. Just like the whole it might feel really, really weird to let go of hard questions and invest more time in easy questions. It might feel really weird. But when you see the results, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I should have been doing this the whole time. Same thing with your study time, okay? Not to the same extent. It's not as extreme, I think, but there might be a little emotional resistance here, and that's okay. So what feels good is novelty, new things. You can look into the science behind it if you want. It's super fascinating, actually. But the top pleasure producing things for human beings are love, food, and novelty, in that order. We all can relate to and understand love and food. Why novelty? Why does novelty feel so good? Well, we don't really understand the way that uh, human brains work well enough to know why that's there in the first place. But this is why you see like a lot of ads that talk about your brand new car, or the brand new getaway, or the brand new experience for life via our inexpensive pill. Novelty feels great, and it sells. So trying a new restaurant, really fun for most people. Seeing the new latest movie, really fun for most people. Conversely, imagine just watching the same movie over and over and over and over again for the rest of your life. After a few reps, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, just give me anything new. I would even watch a bad film that at least is not the same film that I used to love that I now can't stand because I've watched it 100 times, whatever. Okay, so it's totally hardwired. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that rule, but just in general, I think you'll find it to be true. So the novelty obsession is not a problem as long as you understand how to control it. And that's key, because what actually builds your skills is a mix of old and new material. So think about any skill that you've mastered. Did that mastery come from doing the same thing over and over again, even if it was boring? Or did it come from constantly trying new things and never repeating anything? Now, it probably was a mix of both. But it was probably heavily weighted toward repetition. The good news is we don't need to go to that extreme with your GMAT prep. Just a little bit of review of old questions can take you really far, but the key is building the habit of doing it consistently. You don't just want it to be an every once in a while thing, which is what I find a lot of people do when I give them this advice. So again, it's okay if there's some emotional resistance to this. You've definitely overcome more difficult things in your time on planet Earth as a human being than this is going to be. So if you've been following our material for any amount of time, you've probably heard me recommend that you should keep a list of problems that were difficult for you, and you've probably heard me recommend resolving those questions on a regular basis. Again, that advice is in the ebook if you want like a written out reference guide for pretty much everything I'm talking through today. Now, if you're thinking like, that's probably not going to work, or your initial reaction is like, how does doing questions I've already seen help me? I need more new problems. Those thoughts are totally normal. it it just really makes sense based on our past experience. It's probably worked for us in a variety of situations, but the key is not more problems. It's more problems done well. Now that just might sound ridiculously obvious, but again, like, you probably believe that you are doing the practice questions you're doing well already. But if that were true, then you wouldn't be seeing the score plateau. Okay, so here's the system for actually doing questions well. Might be a little bit counterintuitive. So number one, anytime you get a question wrong, you want to separate it into two categories. Category A is for questions that you actually knew how to do but got wrong anyway. So this could be things like you misread the question, or you did 5 + 5 = 11, things like that. That's category A. Category B is for questions you did not know how to do. You couldn't find the right strategy at all, or you like eventually figured out the answer, but it took like 10 minutes. That's a question you really did not know how to do, or you didn't know how to do well enough. And that's fine. Those questions are out there for all of us. So the first key to managing your study time well is just separate your incorrect responses into those two categories. Most people are going to tell you to just put every wrong question into one category. They call it the error log. The error log is an absolute scourge on the GMAT community, and I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me on that, and that's fine. That's fine. You can disagree with my advice and my methods as much as you want. Best wishes disagreeing with my results, everybody. Judge me on those, okay? So you want two categories because the fix for a category A question that I did know how to do but got wrong is completely different than the fix for a category B question that I did not know how to do. So the key is don't use them as separate tags in the same list. That does not work. I don't know why it doesn't work, but I've seen just so many people fail at that. Have two totally separate lists. That's my advice. So once you have that, the second thing that you want to do is invest the first 20% of every study session resolving questions from category B. It might not feel very helpful at first, and it may be very unappealing. But I think when you experience the results, you're never going to want to skip that time. I think you'll feel the value to such an extent that you'll be like, oh wow, I should have been doing this the whole time. So give it a shot. Let us know how it goes. Then you're welcome to invest the other 80% of your study sessions working through new stuff. New material definitely has its place. It's awesome. It teaches you how to adapt your approaches to unseen questions, which is obviously really important for test A. It helps you see what you're good at. It helps you see what you can improve at. Like you need new questions. But the problem is if you only do new questions, then you're never building knowledge. You're just exposing yourself to things and then probably forgetting them. Yes, a small percentage of people can just do a bunch of new stuff and get a great score. Statistically speaking, that's probably not you, and it definitely was not me. Okay. So not trying to say you're not going to have success. I'm saying the opposite. Like you might just need to change your approach and your beliefs to have success. That's what I needed to do. And if you're stuck, it's probably not because you're not working hard enough. It's probably not because you're not smart enough. It's probably none of those things. It's probably just that you haven't been walked through how this situation's different, and it doesn't look different on the surface. The GMAT just looks like any other exam when I see it. I'm like, oh, I've studied for other exams. This should be no big deal. And that's really untrue in most situations. So if you regularly log your category A and category B mistakes, and you regularly resolve your category B mistakes, you should be in great shape for test A. And because a lot of people just immediately copy everything we say, this hopefully will diffuse into your program relatively soon. So, and I don't mean students copying us, by the way. The whole purpose of this podcast is for students to copy what we say. We will not mention by name the other types of people who copy what we do. So the key is consistency. The key is consistency. If you only do it some of the time, expect only some of the results. If you do it well and you do it consistently, expect great results. It's not rocket science, but it's also not necessarily easy. If you struggle to do hard things in general, like I said, just check out our series on how to study smarter, harder, and longer. That's linked below. That'll help you build the mental toughness to endure difficult things better, which will directly translate to your ability to study well. We've also got the how to be more disciplined and how to be more consistent episodes linked for you there as well. And I needed, just to be clear, I needed so much help with that. I needed literal decades of my life went to studying and building that knowledge because I had terrible discipline. I had terrible consistency. Like I was just a mess as a kid. I overcame a lot of it with just raw effort and determination. But yeah, that was really hard. I could have used a lot of help, and I didn't have it. I was really striking out with finding good resources for that stuff. So all of that's our attempt to create something better for you, and hopefully we've done a good job there. But again, open to your feedback. Please let us know if you have thoughts about how we can improve. And there's a feedback link in every piece of content I think that we've ever made, or it's at least a link in a bio. Okay, last key to breaking through score plateaus is auditing your strategy for each individual question type. There are a lot of strategic systems out there for quant, verbal, and DI. Some of them are great. Most of them are just okay. The unfortunate situation is you may have to try a couple versions of each approach before you get where you want to go. And that's actually normal. I had to do it back in the day, and it was ridiculously frustrating because a few different providers sold me on how great their approaches were. And in reality, their approaches were terrible. But we live and we learn. And that's part of why determination is so important. Uh, some people are just way too good at marketing. Some people are just way too good at sales, and we believe them. This is a natural thing. And the key is not like being so skeptical of everything that you never move forward. That's going to be counterproductive. The key is not giving up when the first thing you try doesn't work. That's the key. Because some people are just so good at marketing, it like makes it impossible to make great choices from the beginning. Not impossible, but just let's say like really, really hard. So just stay in the game, make positive changes, and you'll eventually find the right approach for you. That approach of consistency, persistence, determination, that definitely works. So if you're going to be doing your GMAT prep 100% for free, and you want a quick start guide for how to approach each question in quant, verbal, and DI, the 3 sections of the GMAT, we've got specific strategy episodes on each of those sections, and those will be linked below for you as well. If you're using a paid provider, try their approaches. Most paid providers in the space who've been doing this for a while, like, have been able to sustain their business because at least some of their approaches are good. It's really hard to sustain a business in the space if everything you say is bad. So try their approaches, give them a genuine shot. You won't know if they're going to work for you until you try them. So if they work, great, that's awesome. And if they don't, just switch gears. We've got an entire episode on how to switch providers if you need to do that, and that's linked below also. It's way more common than you might think. And again, I had to do it multiple times back in the day in order to get my desired score. Just again, don't give up. Getting frustrated, getting discouraged is totally allowed. Just let those feelings come and go, and just keep moving forward and trying approaches until you figure out what works for you. Like, odds are that getting a really, really great MBA is going to be so transformative and so valuable for your life and everybody's life who you ever come into contact with for the rest of your existence, that a little bit of challenge in the short run is it's just going to be worth it. Even though, yes, we should try to minimize the challenges. We've given tons of advice about the providers we generally recommend, depending on the situations you're in. If you want our rundown of that, which is like as unbiased as we can possibly make it, because like we don't have any referral relationships with anybody in the GMAT space. We don't get any kickback for sending anybody. In fact, like I said, a lot of people copy what we do ruthlessly and pretend they made it up. A lot of people try to like release content that makes us look bad, even though they're copying our content behind the scenes to make themselves look good. I mean, it's crazy. But I think that's just the way a lot of industries go. And I haven't figured out how to fix that completely. So if you know how to fix that, please hit me up. I would love to know what you know. But we're working on it. We're very hopeful that the pod and the other content that we're putting out is objective enough that it helps balance out some of the weirdness. Yeah, and again, that's why we're super open to feedback. Like, we just want to fix the problem, we just want to fix the problem. That's our objective. So hopefully this is helping. So back to business here. Let's summarize. So you want to have a list of every question type that you've seen. And you want to have the associated strategy that you should use when you see a similar question in the future. In fact, if you've kept a list of the category B questions that I recommended above, this should be a total breeze. You've like already got like a pretty robust list probably of like every question type you could see that you would need to remember a strategy for. So if that's, well, I'll get to free versus paid in a sec. So just go through that whole list and just test yourself. Can you write down what the strategy should be for every single question on that list? If you can't, search your provider's materials for the right approach. And if you're going the free route, just web search until you can find a suitable approach for each question type that you've seen. Yeah, it might take a little bit longer, but the upside is no capital outlay. So only you know if that's the right trade for you. But sorry, I got distracted there. So in our How to Start Your GMAT Studies in 2026, both the blog post and the podcast, just writing us a note to put that in the show notes for you. In that How to Start Your GMAT Prep in 2026, we give some recommendations about good providers for most people in most situations, but you might be a unique case. So again, even with the best initial advice, you may have to try multiple things, and then that's what happened to me too. So again, in order to audit your approaches for each individual question, just have a list of every type of question you've seen. That could be as broad as reading comp, and here's my strategy on reading comp, or it could be as detailed as primary purpose reading comp, inference reading comp, specific detail reading comp. Like you can break that list down in any way that works for you. And again, there's paid and there's free resources for that. But just make sure that you actually have like, okay, when I see X, I do Y written out for all those things. If you don't, then you've got some knowledge gaps. But knowledge gaps are the easiest part of this whole process to fix. That's the most intuitive thing. When you don't know something, it's usually obvious you don't know it, and you usually have good instincts from your accuracy-based tests in the past to just be like, okay, let me fix that. Let me learn it. It's the other stuff that's usually the deal breaker. But without this third key of having a good strategy for every question, then the other two keys don't work as well. So that's why it's here. So if you're not doing a good enough job creating and implementing the category B list, again, you can just check out the episode on discipline and consistency. Those are skills that many of us were not taught as young people, myself very much included. I already said that, but they're super, super useful and very learnable skills as an adult. So please like upskill on that if you need to, no judgment. So the list that we're talking about now, like I said, it becomes a list of what you know and what you don't know. And if you're not sure what to work on, just work on the topics that show up most in the list. So if you're like, I don't know if I should be working on quant or verbal, are there more quant or verbal questions in your category B list? That's a good signal that's the biggest opportunity for you. So just keep working on that list until you don't have any more knowledge gaps or until you're seeing the goal score. Either one works. So that's it. If you can change your beliefs about pacing and resource allocation during each section on the exam, that's a major, major cornerstone in breaking through score plateaus. But it can be counterintuitive and it can take a little bit of time. Second, if you've only been doing new, more material, that's probably part of the score plateau issue. And what you want to do there is, even if it's a little counterintuitive, have a category A list, questions I knew how to do but missed. Have a category B list, questions I did not know how to do or didn't know how to do well enough. And then spend 20% of every study session resolving questions from the category B list. It might not feel helpful. You might be like, oh, I remember this, or oh, I know how to do this. That's okay if you remember the answer. What you're trying to do is reproduce the thought process for it. And again, once you experience the benefits of doing that on a regular basis, I think you'll be really, really happy with the results. And then finally, have a list of question types that you're seeing and make sure that you know what you should be doing when you see those question types. And if you're struggling with data sufficiency or you're struggling with reading comp main purpose questions, yes, you might need more reps on those. But if you've put in tons of reps and you're not seeing the results on those, you probably need a new strategy. If you're studying for free, we've got our free strategies linked for you below. Check out the quant, verbal, and data insights episodes. If you have the capacity and willingness to invest, then check your paid provider strategy. If you're executing it perfectly and it's not working, you probably need a new provider. And we've got a how to switch episode there for you. One final note on all of this and on score plateaus in general is you can do an excellent job on all three things that I just mentioned. But if you have learning differences and or test anxiety, ADHD, dyslexia, anything like that, you may need additional help to reach your goal. let's be real, these are super challenging situations that a ton of folks deal with in silence. Unfortunately, I think the conversation around those situations is definitely changing for the better in recent years, but I think we've still got a long way to go toward understanding our brains and our bodies better and having like a better social understanding of all that stuff. In the meantime, until we develop that better social understanding, if you struggle with anxiety and are on a strict budget, then I recommend a book called Performing Under Pressure by Weisinger and Fry. Fry, F-R-Y, Weisinger, W-E-I-S-I-N-G-E-R. You can actually get that audiobook for free on a lot of platforms. So search any audiobook platforms that you use, or try a deep web search, and see if you can find a free copy there if you're on a strict budget. If you can afford the book, I've had a lot of success with it. It might not be like a perfect catch-all solution, but it'll probably help. If that book does not help you enough, then you'll want to consider getting some professional help. There are a great many high quality providers out there. They have excellent track records of helping people in your situation, and you should at least do some introductory calls with them to figure out if working with them can help you. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Like, nobody wants to be in that kind of situation. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks like, oh, I wish my body would work against my objectives. That would be great. Like, nobody's thinking that. And yet that is a real situation and a real problem. And the best thing to do is just face the problem and work on solutions. Dwelling on how much it sucks usually does not help. But of course, it's okay to vent if that does help you. The key is just taking productive action, irrespective of how you feel. Productive action definitely works, and is probably the most data-backed, effective thing in human history. So let's lean on that. Summarizing, if you have a good resource allocation strategy, and you have a good resource allocation strategy for both the test itself and during your study time, then you're 50% of the way toward where you want to be. Then if you actually implement those strategies well and you face your problems head on and you find solutions to those problems, meaning you execute consistently over a long enough period, you are 100% of the way to where you want to be. Like, it's as close to 100 as we can possibly get. It's highly likely to work. The right strategy with the right implementation will for sure work for you. So hopefully I've given you all the tools that you need to make that happen, and I've filled in any gaps that might have been missing for you. But if you feel something is missing here, or you have other feedback for us, please just tap the feedback link in the description and we'll make adjustments based on that going forward. As always, my greatest hope is that this material will make your studies as easy and as painless as they can possibly be. If you want more tips and strategies for optimizing your performance on the exam, just head to our website, thegmatstrategy.com, and check out our video presentation on how you can reach your dream GMAT score in half the normal time. In the meantime, this is a regular show, so please subscribe and please stay positive and stay consistent with your studies, everybody. Talk to you all soon.